hi, welcome back, everyone. I hope you had a very fruitful networking break. Our next session is strategies for AI-driven profitability. This session will focus on how businesses can leverage artificial intelligence to drive profitability, enhance efficiency, and gain competitive advantage. We are honored to have a distinguished panel of experts to discuss these strategies. So before that, let me introduce the moderator for today's session, Phaedra Pang, a digital solutions professional with over 10 years of experience in enterprise technology and innovation. Phaedra leads product and emerging technology strategic partnerships. She is valued for her exceptional client delivery and relationship management in complex, time-sensitive projects. She helps clients in Singapore, Indonesia, Philippines, Japan, and Korea achieve their technology return on investment by monetizing innovation and building new revenue streams. Her team has developed an innovation ecosystem for PwC to evolve ideas into scalable product commercialization to solve client problems through trusted technology-based solutions. So I don't think we can find a better moderator for the session today. And over to you, Phaedra, to introduce your panel members.
Thank you so much. Welcome, everyone. So I will start off with asking our panel to introduce themselves, and more importantly is also to talk about their role in the strategic development of the AI strategies. So without further ado, maybe directly to the end there, we'll start off and then come inwards. Anil?
Oh, thanks. Thanks. So I'm Anil. Politely, I call myself Jack of Trades, Master of None. I believe that's what technology is doing to all of us. I've been, in my 15 years of my professional life, I've been throughout an entrepreneur. Started doing an online laundry way back in 2008 in Bangalore, which did not work out. I was employee number 30 at Lazada in Singapore. So building out the company, focusing on fundraising, managing the cost for the organization. And the last 7 years at Spark Beyond, where I've worked with enterprises across multiple sectors, be it banking, be it mining, oil and gas, or digital natives, advising them on how to get the right ROI for bottom line impact using technologies like Spark Beyond or what's there in the open source ecosystem as well.
Thanks, Anil. Fionn?
Hi, everyone. My name is Fionn. I'm the Managing Director of LinkedIn Asia Pac. Been in LinkedIn for close to 11, actually slightly more than 11 years now. LinkedIn, as many of you know, has 1 billion members, and in Asia Pac, close to 300 million members. And you can imagine the kind of rich insights that we get on our platform. With these insights, we are able to know the hiring trends, the learning trends, the skills that is in demand. And with that, we're able to help companies or even workforce in terms of its transformation. And here I am today sharing how we can, really discuss the impact of AI on our workforce.
And last but not least, Jan?
Hi, everybody. My name is Jan, and I'm the regional CEO for a direct-to-consumer retailer called Lenskart. We're a KKR and a Temasek SoftBank portfolio company. And our focus is really on putting as many eyewear on customers around the world by making it affordable and accessible. And so my role as the regional CEO of our business, which is a tech-driven eyewear retailer, is twofold. One is to localize and bring a lot of our leading technologies to many customers in this region. And we obviously have two brands that we can do that, both Lenskart as well as Owndays. And the second part is as a cultural and organizational leader, where my role is really to build the next generation of leadership and a team that is empowered and can be enabled to bring many of these new technologies to innovate on behalf of customers. So looking forward to sharing the panel today.
Wow. I think on that basis of leadership and how you're nurturing that, right? Let's hear from Anil. Anil, what does it mean to be a leader at this time of change, in particular because everybody has AI on their minds?
So I think a lot has changed in the last 18 months with Gen AI specifically. I think a lot of people are still figuring out what's the so what of this technology. Because it's a step change fundamentally. We are used to the past where we've had experiences with Cortana, Siri, where it never felt that realistic, the conversation with an AI agent or a chatbot. Now, what that means is, first, transformation has to start at an individual level. So what we are doing is we are giving our employees credits for them to figure out how they can boost their productivity, enhance their own day-to-day experience of working within the organization using technology. That's step one. Step two is then seeing which of these uh, initiatives drive value for the overall organization, and then investing in internal products to bootstrap the overall efficiency within the organization. I think it also starts at an individual level, because as a leader, you set the direction, you set the tone, and for more importantly, you create that culture where you would encourage your people to take risk. And then as a part of that, it's all about me personally doing a lot of courses. It felt like going back to school, doing online courses, really trying to understand what this technology is all about. What does it mean for my employees? What does it also mean for my customers and my partners? So that's how I look at AI. I think two things which have stood out. One is it's becoming very clear when I advise my clients and my customers is to think beyond productivity or creativity as levers of AI in today's world. I think the leaders who will succeed in this era by driving either bottom line impact or shareholder value would be who take AI and are able to go into adjacent sectors where AI will allow them to lower the marginal cost of expansion. So why couldn't a bank become a fintech? There are structural challenges, organizational, cultural, but there's also a big blocker in technology enablement. That's where I think even for business leaders through our conversations, what I see is how can we go beyond cost saving, productivity into using AI as a strategic differentiator in their arsenal to compete at a lower cost in new segments.
Thanks, Anil. Jan, you must have definitely, similar experiences. I hear that tension between risk and reward. What are some of your observations about, the reinvestment? Do you think that would be something that Lenskart, can speak about?
Yeah, absolutely. So, for a bit of context, Lenskart was a company that started off using technology to actually drive the disruption of eyewear. In particular, we became known for using augmented reality as one of the first users of technology to help users find that better, or more importantly, that perfect fit without actually having to try their glasses. And even till now, that technology continues to propel a lot of the innovation in our business. For example, to share with you a statistic, customers of ours who use augmented reality compared to those who don't are actually 2 times, actually more than that, 2 times more likely to convert than those who didn't. And it's not necessarily about those customers who actually purchased the items they tried on. But what we find is that technology, when used correctly for the benefit of the customer experience, actually becomes a really key trust builder for companies. So when companies think about how they should actually leverage AI and ML, one of the things I would actually mention firstly is that they should first look at acceptance within the organization. I think too often we as leaders come in and try to look for a silver bullet, looking for a way to just parachute in a solution to a problem. And if you can find one, I would totally encourage an organization to do that. But I would really encourage those leaders who are thinking about building long-term sustainable growth to build that acceptance. Because I think the difference here with AI, ML, as well as generative AI, is that compared to previous waves of innovation, it was one where it was a case of haves and have-nots. The reason being is that you required significant investment in resources to access the previous ways of technology, whether it was in the early days of manufacturing to computing. Whereas nowadays, anybody with a free account, or better yet, $30 a month, can actually access arguably the most profound and innovative technology that exists in the world today. So the first thing I'd really encourage leaders to do is look at building that acceptance within an organization. And if you're going to take goals, build goals around organizational learning, adoption. Because I think when the team and the organization can adopt those technologies, it creates the right coming together and that spark for that greater use and adoption across the organization. And once the team is adopted, you'll find that when you run your annual operating plan meetings, when you're running your workshops to try to innovate solutions, your team is automatically going to actually move towards using these new technologies and solutions. And as I mentioned earlier, when it comes to adoption of these tools across the region, which is what I'm responsible for, as well as building that culture of innovation, those are the immediate goals that I'm taking.
Wow. So a lot there to, think about. What we're hearing is that in terms of the strategies, right, it's really about getting that sense of people becoming, part of this solutioning with you, to have them on board. And I think it's a really good segue into, what Fionn could probably share. You've had, I'm sure, loads of discussions with business leaders about, buy-in. So what are some of the quick wins that business leaders could actually take to get that sense of momentum going?
Well, I love what Sunil and Jen just said, and what they just shared is kind of exactly what we're seeing. In fact, if you look at our audience today and just the general people on our Work Trends Index report that we did with Microsoft, it says that 3 out of 4 employees today use some sort of tools, Gen AI application, to help them with their everyday work. So, but the organizations are really struggling. Most of the organizations, more than 50%, are struggling to find that productivity angle. Like what you say, a lot of companies trying to figure out how they implement Gen AI or AI solutions in their workforce transformation, and they're finding it difficult to articulate the ROI, the immediate ROI associated that they expect. With this investment, I should have this return. But the world doesn't work like that. It sometimes requires a bit of investment for some of the results to come through. And we know that people are kind of in a state where work is getting a lot and they're turning to AI for help. Where the repetitive work, the way that Gen AI can help them to take the mundane work out of their daily routine is actually happening right now. So I guess for organizations, the important thing is to understand we are at this pivotal point where people are eager to learn, to kind of adopt. And then meanwhile, the companies are figuring out, how do I justify that ROI? And how do we keep that balance so that, you're preparing your workforce for that transformation?
Thanks, Fionn. I think I will welcome either of you or all, to also comment about keeping output constant and reducing labor output to cut costs, because I think that's one of the strategies that most leaders would immediately latch upon, right? They are thinking that, okay, from all technology investments that they've done in the past, how can we optimize output? But is that the only rationale for a return on investment? So Jan, do you have a opposite thought to that?
Maybe not an immediate opposite one, but I think I wanted to share maybe a real use case we had of finding a quick win and opportunity to adopt AI. So, a few years back, our company was one that started online, but found that the only way to truly scale and serve customers, especially those who needed a physical eye test, was to actually start up our physical stores. Yes. As we started to scale our physical stores, and now we have almost 2,000 stores globally, the question of management and tracking of data became a key issue. So our CEO and founder actually made an investment and eventually acquired an AI and computer-driven startup. It's actually called Tango Eye. And that really brought us a profound level of automation, cost reduction, as well as innovation that it enabled within the organization. For example, the simple act of calculating footfall and the number of customers who come in and convert, which, I was speaking to a friend who works at companies like Birkenstock and others, continues to be, even for leading retailers, a manual effort. And we're proud that actually it's a completely automated exercise by using a lot of this computer vision and AI technology. The second thing I think it also enables is better visibility of your data. I'm reminded of a story. I don't know if you guys know of this story from the World War II, where the Allies used to analyze their planes that came in. And they looked at the planes that came back and noticed that those planes that returned always had bullet holes in their wings. And so they did the natural thing, followed the data, and they patched up the wings. But what they found is didn't actually change the number of planes that made it home from war. And the reason is that, guess what? The planes that were getting shot in the body were the ones that never made it back. So sometimes it's also a case of enabling yourself with the data, but also making sure you look at the blind spots of the data. And we also apply the same principles. For example, when we look at this data, previously without this information, we would look at where we had the highest number of bills per day and try to automate our staff scheduling to cover those slots. When actually with this data, we're able to now see the missed opportunities. And we're finding that, for example, late in the day, where we used to understaff it about closing, tends to actually be the time where we need to overstaff it versus understaffing in the day. So a very small but practical example of both using the technology well, but also trying to also look beyond just the obvious data, because then they may not always tell you what you think.
Great. I think that was a really good illustration of the greater impact when you apply AI into your existing digital data sets. Fionn, you look like you have also got something that you would like to share with us.
I was just listening to Jen. I was really excited to hear you talk about how, the applications of AI, even though when you kind of brought that or acquired that company, you didn't think about the immediate ROI, but more like a necessity for how a company is growing and into the next phase, into branching out into the next frontier. And that's exactly what we're seeing in a lot of companies. Today, if you look at AI skills in demand, it's grown through the roof. Every company is looking for AI skills. But what do companies do? I mean, you can either build or you can buy. But if you buy AI skills, where can you find them? Because every company is looking and you can pay through the roof, right? And what we're seeing is that companies are embedding AI skills and trying to look at how they can upgrade their people. One of them is definitely in LinkedIn Learning itself, we have actually incorporated AI into our LinkedIn Learning, really giving every employee an AI tutor. So can you imagine every employee of yours having an AI coach that is there to support you in your journey of transformation in terms of the skills that you need to acquire? And when companies start to do that, they're beginning to create greater awareness of AI. They're also equipping every employee with the actual app itself with AI capabilities, and that create a whole awareness to actually how they learn. And LinkedIn Learning also has more than 600 courses, the best in the world right now in terms of its frontier in creating AI courses on LinkedIn. And that's based off our, the kind of skills in demand right now that we're able to create that kind of learning courses.
So I've been fortunate to work with customers on two different scenarios. So one was around cost and productivity. Eventually, when it goes to the boardroom, the mental model is the business case is very simple. It's all about, if I'm talking about cost reduction, what am I going after? Is it my fixed cost? Is it my variable cost? And then what's the investment needed? And if that investment is a capex, then what's my ROI? I'll give you an example of a mining client in Indonesia. They operate a large operation in a very remote location in Kalimantan. They had 150 Caterpillar Komatsu trucks. These are fuel guzzlers. They are burning 100, 150 liters an hour. So when we started thinking about where to apply AI or technology for better ROI, we looked at their income statement and it became very clear fuel was 10% of the total variable cost. And now that's what we were decided to go after. The next thing then was the role of technology. All these Caterpillar trucks, they come with almost 80 to 100 sensors. And that allows you to create a digital twin to really understand what can I influence in the behavior of the operator or the driver to optimize my fuel consumption. We did that, and eventually we were able to demonstrate 6% reduction in total cost. And it's very important for a mining company because in commodities market, it's a very cyclical market. Your top line is very much contingent on macro environments and geopolitical risk. And against that, if you have this defense mechanism on managing your cost creatively, it makes sense. The learning from that was to typically start with the use case in mind, packaged by 3 transformations happening in parallel. It's not digital transformation. The way I look at it, it's people, it's processes, and then it's technology, but led by a use case which can demonstrate a time-bound ROI. On the other extreme end, we are working with an oil and gas major in Europe. They've existed for 70 plus years. Their core strength is setting up oil rigs 100 kilometers offshore. What they really are good at is, as an engineering organization, as a construction organization, they can set up complex infrastructure. Now they are facing the pressure of sustainability, scope 1, scope 2, and they need to diversify revenue streams. So how are they going about that? Again, then bringing AI into picture is, hey, we are really experts as engineers. What if we went after solar power plants, wind plants, which are typically also set up in offshore areas, and we provide the entire engineering, construction expertise, but at a lower cost because we can use AI to infer all the learning, 60, 70 years of our experience, be it documents that our engineers have written over our entire history, be it doing use cases like asset management, maintenance. And that's another way where, going to my earlier point, is I can go into adjacent revenue streams if I know what I'm really good at. But what I need to demonstrate is I can do it better and at a lower marginal cost than my competition. So it's another way in which we work and engage with customers in really taking AI to build new revenue streams and drive profit or top line impact.
Thanks, Anil. I think that was a good illustration of business model reinvention. We have about 9 minutes, so I can see that we have a rich number from the audience. I can invite maybe a question or two from the audience to our panel. Yes, I see a hand raised at the back. Maybe I can invite you to come closer. We'll pass you a mic. The gentleman in the back there. No. Okay. Any questions, maybe, or a response? Okay, thank you so much.
Do you think there is a risk of overhyping AI and its impact on businesses? Because right now I see kind of a trend of AI be kind of, similar to like the dot-com bubble, like an over dramatic, we have AGI coming, it's going to take everyone's jobs, lawyers are done for. Like, do you think there's a risk of that happening right now?
I can go for that. I think your definition is there a hype? I would say that definitely everyone is talking about AI. But I do think that AI is definitely sticking around and transforming the world right now. I do think that it's going to change our jobs, where we used to look at jobs as, like, oh, I am a rep, I got promoted as a manager, I got promoted as a director of a Southeast Asia director. Like, we tend to look at jobs as titles. And I think with the impact of AI, jobs is going to change dramatically. People are going to look at jobs as a series of tasks. And the task that is broken down that makes your job today, the ones that is repetitive, those are the ones that AI is going to take over. Those are the ones that AI can possibly do a better job than what we are doing today. But the human nature aspects of things is going to stick around. So jobs is going to change and it's going to be different. And I think the impact on the workforce is definitely real. And the companies that is able to make this shift are the one that is going to make a huge difference. They will be the one that benefit from it, from the way they think about talent, the way they prepare their workforce, the way they apply AI into their business transformation. All of this is going to have a huge impact in the next type of companies that evolve.
Maybe just coming on that, I think one trend which has a higher likelihood of coming up is the premium on talent arbitrage has to go down. And that definitely is one of the most probabilistic outcomes, right? So earlier, if you see the way you would pay a software developer a blue-collar job versus a white-collar job, I think because of that talent difference, you get paid more. And there will be pressure, because we live in a capitalistic society, there will be pressure on rationalizing that. And that's one possible outcome which is potentially going to happen. The flip side of this is it also gives us the single biggest tool at our disposal to think about income redistribution. So obviously, and that's something more for the governments and the policymakers. I'm not qualified, but there are two ways to look at it, right? There's a great tool at the hands of policymakers to think about income redistribution. And for us, I think it's more about when we think about our jobs in 5 years, should I be paid that premium compared to the baseline?
Yeah, I just want to pick up on what Anil and Fionn have mentioned. And to the question that was asked, to be honest, I don't know from my perspective whether it is overhyped. And I'm honest, I don't think anybody else knows. But the one thing I'd say is the mistake here would be to ignore it. I think there is such a profound effect it's already having on the world. For example, the job title of prompt engineer didn't exist 18 or 24 months ago. It was completely a new concept. And so, you know, especially as a company, some of the things to share examples of how we're leveraging it, I don't think we found like a magic use case for something like generative AI, where we're finding some really, really exciting ones. For example, when it comes to augmenting and refining our search and our catalog, we're finding that the vision capabilities of GPT are far outweigh the efficiency and accuracy of what a human can do at that speed. For example, we'd fed it hundreds of images of eyewear, and we'd asked it, tell me those which are trendy and not trendy. And honestly, it gives you an output that's incredibly accurate and actually far more efficient than what we would do traditionally. And that gives you much more ability to scale a lot of things you would do ordinarily. Other things we're trying to look at also are how we can use it to leverage learning. I came from an organization at Amazon 7 years where, similar to, I think, Fionn, we're blessed with a lot of learning resources. And I found myself a bit starved. But what I found is actually using GPT and some of the special LLMs that they have and the custom ones that they have, models, we have been able to actually empower my organization with fantastic learning capabilities. So I don't know how big or how far it will go, but what I do know for sure is everybody should embrace it and not ignore it.
It's interesting you say that, because one of the stats that we saw in our hiring trends is that companies are now willing to sacrifice on experience and go for people with AI skills. So traditionally, if you look at a hiring manager, they rather hire someone with more experience, but now they're saying that I'd rather hire someone with the AI skills but lesser experience than someone with the experience in that industry but with no AI skills. So definitely you see the trend happening. More than 70% of companies are telling us that right now. So AI skills definitely is in demand and is definitely something that is going to change the way we think about work.
Thank you. I think we have time for one last question. Yes. The lady in the front.
Thank you. There's an association with adaptation of technology and age. What sort of guiding principles do you have for organizations that are based in populations that are of a much older demographic and that don't have that same rate of adaptability? Japan is an economy that comes to mind.
I'm happy to take a pass on that because LinkedIn operates in Japan as well. And it's very interesting because even the government is spending billions of dollars encouraging the companies to transform, because they know that in the age of AI, they actually have an opportunity now where they are workforce constrained, but yet there's a technology that can change and bring a greater productivity into the workforce. So there's a lot of initiatives from government. There's a lot of work that companies need to do to encourage people to change, to create that environment, to equip the people to create opportunities. Like what Jen had said, Amazon's LinkedIn learning courses is like the highest take-up rate like we see in Japan. So companies are very aware that these are the things that they need to do. For example, in Indonesia itself, where there's mass population, we just signed a deal with the Indonesia government saying that of that 1 million workforce that is under the state-owned enterprises, they want all of them to use LinkedIn Learning to actually pick up some skills, because LinkedIn Learning is actually a AI-empowered coach for every individual. So when companies and government and individuals start having the mindset of transformation, this is when the magic happens.
I just wanted to add as well one thing. Coincidentally, I happen to be part of the Enterprise Singapore team that signed off what's called the Jaragogi guidelines for educating and teaching senior learners for Singapore. So I think that's one thing I'd also encourage other governments to follow. I think Singapore is unique in being a very forward-thinking government that looks at inclusiveness, and actually came up with a set of guidelines to enable companies to design their systems so how they could think about accommodating it to senior learners. Apart from that, I think just making it suitable to familiarity. For example, we do remote eye testing in Japan, as an example, with many senior learners. And what we found is actually using a person on the other side who is familiar to them, a slightly elderly optician, has dramatically helped adoption. So a couple of quick things, but definitely I think looking at setting guidelines at the government level helps a lot.
So we have a few seconds left. I think from a policy perspective, it really depends on how the government can engage directly or indirectly. I think they need to engage at both levels to create that incentive for partners to come and do that upskilling. At the same time, I think what's important is creating job opportunities as well, because certain jobs are going to become redundant potentially. So what are those job opportunities that they can create? And if there can be a way of higher education, I think in Singapore, we have a very good program, which the government has started, I think, during the COVID time on digital skills and adoptions. These are good programs because you're managing both supply and demand. You're creating the supply, and on the partnership side, you're creating the demand pull from companies like us who can hire that workforce. I think that's probably the right way to look at it.
Thank you to my panel. And now, as we wrap up, I would just like to maybe summarize the thoughts from our leaders here today. So in coming up with your AI impact strategies on productivity, I think the 3 takeaways is really to engage. So engage the people. Think about the people that are in your organization. How will they benefit from your investment in AI? Start from your current digital strategy. Look at quick wins. So if there are certain technologies that you have already implemented and there are ways that you can engage your ecosystem partners to introduce the AI in there, I think that would be an excellent way to start. And lastly, also constantly re-evaluate, manage that risk and revenue kind of mentality, because your boards, your stakeholders, they will constantly be asking you, what's the rate of ROI? So you will have to therefore evaluate, what are you looking for, productivity gains, or are you looking at reinvestment because you see that this is just the start of the curve and you want to really get ahead of your competitors. So with that, I thank one again my panel for today, Anil, Fionn and Jan, and wish you an excellent day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to our panelists for an engaging discussion on AI-driven profitability. Let's give them another round of applause.